Hey everyone, and welcome back to another installment of PRL Plays podcast. This week, as you know, we will be doing 4 episodes. This is the 4th and final episode. We're, of course, talking about the Life Division. This episode is going to be just like all the rest. We're going to be doing tons of interviews with all the teams that are still in playoff contentions. Alex, do you have any thoughts you want to give before we jump into the announcements and notices for this week's episode?
Another exciting division that we're going to get to hear some thoughts on. And it holds a lot of the teams that we've talked highly about, so I'm very interested to get the opinions of all players that are in contention.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm excited to hear it from all of these teams. That being said, our notice for this week's episode of the podcast is the fact that we do have all these interviews. It's not going to really be about our thoughts. It's going to be more about the interviewees' thoughts. You're going to see a couple jump cuts in terms of the video as we shift between interview to interview. With that out of the way, we'll jump now into the announcements. First off, for announcements, sign-ups for Next Split will be going live shortly after this episode is uploaded. We've had a lot of people express interest in signing up for Next Split, so if you are interested, make sure you sign up sooner rather than later. We don't want you guys to miss out on those spots because you guys are hesitating about signing up. In addition to the regular league, though, we will also be holding a Premier League. Currently, it is under the name Phoenix Rising Premier League. That is a work in progress, though, so keep an eye out for that name when we finally do release it. But that being said, we will also be releasing signups for that as well. It is going to be a Diamond 1 and Up League, so if you are interested, make sure you sign up for that as well. You guys will be playing Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday rather than the Thursday through Sunday like our current league. Also, we will be releasing a calendar for next year, so you can see how each split for both leagues will shake out in terms of scheduling, when it's going to start, when it's going to end, all that kind of stuff. We have 2 more announcements. Second to last announcement is going to be about tiebreakers. So we have discussed it across all the divisions, and we'll discuss it here too. There are going to be a boatload of tiebreakers this split. With that being said, though, if you have a singular head-to-head tiebreaker, it's going to first go off of your head-to-head record against each other, followed by a head-to-head clash if your guys' head-to-head lines up that way. And if it is that case, you must play it out the day of it. So that means you would be starting your tiebreaker game at 11 so that we can feature it on stream. In the event that a 3-way or even 4-way tiebreaker happens, though, you must resolve it no later than Monday at 11:59 p.m. Eastern. So make sure you guys are getting those tiebreakers taken care of as fast as humanly possible so we can get everything squared away for playoffs. Now, with that being said, I will not be here. Alex, Sloth King, will have to take care of everything in terms of tiebreakers because I will not be here this weekend. I am leaving for my honeymoon with my wife. I'm super excited for that, but of course Sloth will need to take care of that for me in my absence. So if you have any questions or concerns about that, make sure you are messaging him so he can take care of it so we can get everything squared away for playoffs as fast as humanly possible. Now, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and jump on into the nitty-gritty of the Life Division. All right, everybody, to kick off the Life Division interviews, we, of course, have Akuma Blades. We are sitting down with Brash, who is representing them. Brash, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you, Jacob and Alex?
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm
First
great.
First person to refer to us by name. Yeah, we're doing well.
Watching the show.
How excited are you for playoffs?
I'm really excited. This is my first playoffs in a competitive scene, so I really want to do well.
100%. Yeah, I mean, you guys have already done well. Probably exceeded even your own expectations with the fact that you guys are sitting pretty comfortably in that first seed spot at 10-2, with that head-to-head being 2-0 over Go Next Gaming. But they do get that free win this week, putting them at 11-2. So you guys are definitely looking at 2-0 this week to kind of reclaim that spot. How confident are you guys that you guys can do that?
I'm pretty confident. I think we have a free win too, but we only play Sicko this week. But we beat them last time in 23 minutes, so I'm pretty confident that something along the same lines will happen.
Gotcha. I like it. Speaking of Sicko Sands performed much better this time around against Go Next Gaming. Um, how does that make you guys nervous at all, or do you guys think that well, that's Go Next Gaming, we're a better team than them? What's your guys' outlook on that?
Yeah, I think we just like we don't really watch any of the other games in our division, so like I don't know how the last game went, but yeah, I think we're a better team than Go Next, and if they had a close game versus Go Next, then we'll just have to beat Sicko harder again and show them that we are the better team again.
All right. Brutal answer. All right.
I like it.
Last week, obviously, you guys didn't really get to play, just due to a lot of the forfeits that ended up coming out. Um, how are you guys? I gotta ask. So let me put it like this. I have to ask this. This is kind of the elephant in the room that everyone really wants to have addressed. Is what is going on with Akuma Blades when it comes to OT Iglesias? Like, is it stylistic? Is it just like you guys have a mental boom? What's going on there?
Well, the first time we lost them, we had 2 subs, so I'm gonna use that as an excuse for the first time.
Okay.
But I'm not gonna give you a go next answer and say that we played bad. They played like really well in our game that we played against them. I do think we had a really bad draft going into that game. I think we picked like Yumi and Garen, and they picked Kale like somewhere top, and the Kale just popped off and like carried.
Gotcha.
And they just like whenever they're ahead, they actually like I'm surprised they play like a lot better than the other teams in our division. They like just hard steamrolled us.
Gotcha. Well, let me touch on that three-way tie that they potentially have going on. OTA Glacials plays against Sicko Sands and Original Esports. Original Esports, who just took down Sicko Sands last week, plays against Go Next Gaming and OTA Glacials. And then Sicko Sands plays against you guys and OTA Glacials. So they all kind of play each other in some capacity. Who do you think is going to come out on top of that, with Sicko Sands currently being up that individual game over the 2 other teams?
I really want it to be any other team other than OTA Glacials, but I think that they will definitely be the team that gets out of. I think they're definitely the top 3. Like it's just like I don't know, they may be even better than us or Go Next, like because honestly they've beat us 2 times, so that says something about them, right? So like
Definitely.
I think that puts them somewhere in the top 3 with us and Go Next.
Gotcha. All right, I like it. Alex, I'll pass it on over to you, man.
Yeah, I just kind of want to get in depth on some drafts that we saw against you versus Go Next. I know you didn't play one this week, but what about last week's game? Or I should say
2
the
weeks
week
ago.
before that. Yeah. So we'll go over that Go Next Gaming versus Akuma Blades draft.
I think we last time we played them, we just left up their 1 tricks, and we already knew that Top was gonna pick Irelia because like he was already talking about it in like another channel or something. So we wanted to try to get counterpick Top, but it didn't go like how we wanted it to be honest, because our top laner ended up dying 2 times, but like we still ended up winning through like mid and bot. What confused us the most was like Vigar going bot lane. Like
Yeah, I was kind of.
I don't think.
That as well.
Yeah, like we just killed them. Like I think 2 times in lane, and it just. I think if the Vigar was mid, he could have definitely pushed in the Galio that we had a lot more. And honestly, that was another close game, like from us. Like that was probably our sloppiest win of this season.
Yeah,
we
it
just
seemed
had.
like you guys had to get that pick on Aurelia in the late game to turn around the game.
Yeah,
and
bot
get
lane.
Kai'Sa.
Yeah, that was bot. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
you're
then
right. It
we
was
just,
bot lane.
We just had that really good team fight with our mid and ADC. They basically 2v5 that fight because I died at the beginning, our top laner died at the beginning, and our jungler was just like barely alive too.
Well, you did find yourselves the victory, and so with that, I want to ask. We kind of ranked the divisions amongst ourselves, and we said that this was the 2nd most difficult division. Would you kind of agree with that, or do you think this was kind of cakewalk?
Or the opposite
Honestly,
end of the spectrum, do you think this one was the hardest?
I would probably just say like 1st or 2nd. But like the only other division that I put above us is the team with TFT because that's like the only other team we've played against, and that's a team that I respect the most because I know the players on the team. I know that the support and AD for that team are among the top like bot lanes in this league, so I expect like that to be another strong division other than like anybody else in that division.
Gotcha. I'm actually surprised because we actually had Mind Division as one of the lower difficulty divisions. The only division that we seemed to believe was comparable with Life Division was Soul Division. Actually, do you think Soul Division, despite having Recon 5 and Zephyr Esports, is just
Yeah, I actually probably overlooked them, but I've heard a lot about like the other teams there, like Recon 5, Asian Invasion, and Zephyr. So I mean, since I've heard a lot about them, that means they're probably just as good as like. I mean, in my opinion, I think all these divisions have like one or two really good teams, and then it's like a huge drop off. I mean,
Well,
like,
so with that, let's actually talk about our top 6 that we talked about on the show the other day.
yeah?
Mhm.
So, do you want to give him that list, or do you want me to? Because I kind of have it
You
off
can
the
give me
mind.
that list. I just
Okay.
kind of want to know when he gives you the list, kind of what your thoughts are on the teams we picked and how you feel the tiers should go.
Yeah, so we had SPK Embers in sixth. We had Team Fish Taco in fifth. We had I think it was Go Next Gaming was
Go Next in
fourth.
fourth.
Yeah, overall. Zephyr was third overall, and then it was Recon 5 in second with Akuma Blades in first. How do you guys feel about that list? Do you guys feel like deserving of that top seed? Would you organize it a different way? What's your thoughts on that?
well, I'd probably put OTA Glacials in first, obviously. No, I'm just joking.
For the memes.
I want to say we're pretty deserving since we beat last year's champions, and we've been like pretty like clean in our games except for the OTA Glacials one. And if I had to put a team in second, I mean it's got to be TFT. In my opinion, like everybody's undervaluing them. They just have a really strong roster, and we scrimmed them before, and it's been pretty recent. I don't want to give out like anything about that, but I just know that like it's like very like close. And I think that's a really good team that everybody's just putting at like the fifth or sixth, but like definitely like a top 3 team going into it. And in third, I'd probably put like Recon 5 just because I've heard so much about their like organization as a whole. Like just like whenever you hear Recon 5, you just assume that it's just like gonna be a good team coming
Success,
from
yeah.
that org. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I put like SBK and like maybe OTA Glacials if they get out at like the fourth or fifth. And then 6, I guess you could just put Go Next because it's whatever.
So you have a lot of respect for OTA Glacials, which I find interesting.
I mean, they beat him twice. He's got to respect him, right? Like,
Twice, so I can see it, but like you guys have a lot of respect for them, and I think that's very commendable.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, like even in the games that I've watched versus other teams, like their match against Go Next was really close too. Like, I think Go Next had to win that game just by like barely getting like a backdoor after getting like a pick off, with Irelia like winning the game. But they've had really close games, and I think if they can honestly get this third seed in, then they look like really strong when in playoffs.
gotcha.
Now, shifting focus into playoffs, if you guys come out as first seed, you will get an off week.
2 off weeks.
And yeah, I'm sorry, you will get 2 off weeks. With that time, what are you planning to do with that time? And do you feel like it's a detriment to not be able to play that extra week?
I think it's actually good for us because we really want to practice before the preseason comes in, and I think that's what we're going to be doing with our time off, just trying to figure out what the best lane is to play with our team, because right now we're more of like a mid-bot centric team. But that could easily shift into just like playing around like top and mid, because like I know a lot of the like strong carry mid and top laners are going to be strong, and we can hold our own bot lane, so like I think we could just try to figure out another play style, and that's probably what we'll be doing the 2 weeks.
Now,
Gotcha.
if we shift to the other way, you guys get second. That's gonna make you pick an opponent of a third seed team. Is there any teams you've been looking to pick if you do get second seed?
I haven't thought about it, but it can't be somebody from my division, so
No.
I'd probably pick like Jet Black if they get out, and I mean I just know that they have this really weak bot lane, specifically the support. So I know I would wanna really I'd really wanna punish that lane the most, and yeah, I think just like if we can win through bot, the game's done. So that's how I see it.
Gotcha. So you guys, obviously, all of preseason is going to be played on, or all of playoffs rather is going to be played on the preseason. Um, how do you guys feel about the preseason changes? Are you guys excited for them because you feel like it makes the game? Because from an analytical standpoint, we feel like draft becomes so much more important in the new season due to that third Drake spawn. Or are you guys more along the lines of we just want to kind of gauge it and see how it goes?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not too excited just because it's in the middle of like, or like at the start of playoffs and will be played at the whole playoffs because we've just been playing this like play style that we're really good at. And I'm a little bit nervous to see like how we can adapt to this new patch and like see how other teams adapt to it. And then like we really won't get to see like what these pro teams are practicing or like anything. So I guess like most teams will like have to come up with something that's like original to like play if there's something that's like really good. So like, but other than that, I mean like it should be like really fun. I think junglers will become like really strong with like the new dragon and stuff. I'm excited to see like the changes and like how it like affects the game.
Gotcha. So I kind of got more of a support tailored question, given that you are the support for Akuma Blades. We spoke to a support previously in one of the other podcasts, who mentioned that they think that the game is headed much more towards mage supports and mage-oriented bot lanes instead of the standard enchanter or engager support. What's your thoughts on that with what you've already seen kind of like from the preseason? Obviously, they're probably in a different scrim pool than you are in. I've noticed that there's like a lot of clicks in terms of scrims and stuff like that. So, what have you guys kind of found is what it's trending towards?
I could definitely see how the mage support thing would be really good with like the low health or whatever it is and like high AP support thing that's coming out. But I still feel like hook champions just like will always be the best or like engage just for competitive. And like mage bot lane just like late game I feel like they're really hard to fall off versus like Thresh, Nautilus or just anything that engages like Zyra or Brand that's like the most typical mage support that you see. I feel like they just get like really hard bullied on late game.
Gotcha.
Especially since it's gonna be like a mid lane like assassin meta in my opinion. So like you'll see like Zed and like LeBlanc and stuff like that just easily killing mage supports.
Heard. Interesting.
So with all the practice you guys are gonna have time for it if you do get first, is there any spicy picks we should expect to see coming for your debut in playoffs?
I know you guys told our jungler to practice some Master E last time whenever he was on the interview, so I mean like he could.
We didn't interview anyone last time. We haven't. This is the
it
first
was
of
like
the interviews.
after. It was after we won a game. I don't know if it was you guys or somebody.
no,
No, that would have. That would have been.
Max.
Yeah, that would have been Smacks.
Yeah, he's been pulling that out in scrims a little bit.
Heard.
Really?
I'm curious to see if we end up seeing
in
the
a game or two. I won't say a lot more than that, but yeah.
Hey, if Smacks asks for it, you guys usually give it to him. I saw you guys play his Xin Zhao, so.
Yeah. The spicy picks though, that's something we may have to work on though.
Gotcha.
Hey, I have faith in you guys.
So, are you guys excited for the best of 5 possibilities, or are you guys? Do you guys favor the best of 1 meta?
I guess best of 5 is fine for us, but I just kind of want to sleep after we win 2 games, so like or 1 game, whatever. So I have never played a best of 5. Honestly, I've played best of 3s, so it could be something that I may have to adapt to because
Might get tired.
yeah, because there's always a chance of just getting like reverse swept or like whatever. So
Yeah, I mean fatigue is a real thing, especially when we're talking about competitive league.
yeah, like after like 2 or 3 games, like I guess we'll just have to figure out like something to do if we just have like a really close series, like maybe take a break and just like chill for a little bit between matches and talk things through. We don't really have a coach or anything, so it's usually just like all of us prepping. No, we don't have a coach or
You guys
manager.
play really impressive.
For not having a coach.
Yeah, we just do our mid laner honestly does like all the prep for the team. He has like every single team, like in this league that every top 3 team we already have like all their info. So like I mean, like he does everything. So
Wow.
shout out to Fluke.
Yeah. Is that like something in the near future you're thinking about getting, or is that something you guys are you're just fine with not having a coach and letting your mid laner run the show?
Right now I guess it's just working, so we won't like make any adjustments before playoffs. But I mean, like if there's a chance or something that like we could get like a really good coach that works with us and doesn't try to like mess up like too much of what we have
Overdo
going
it,
on.
yeah.
Yeah, because that's like a lot of the problem I see with these like draft coaches and stuff is like just coming in there and trying to force people on champions they don't play, and that's something that we're just like not too fond of, like somebody doing that.
Gotcha. Um, so I guess my questions are. I only got like 2 or 3 more questions. What are there any teams that you guys are excited to have the prospect of playing against in playoffs? Obviously, you've already shouted out you want to face Jet Black if they make it in. But are there any other teams that you guys are looking forward to really playing against?
If we get to finals, and go next to us, I'd love to play them again, just because I want to beat Q8 and B-Way again. Other than that, I guess just playing like any other of the top teams that like you guys have in the top 6 would be really fun. Just seeing like how we match up against them rather than the teams in Life division. Um, I think our team just really doesn't care who we play. Like we just want to play the best of our ability. So
Gotcha. Uh, I mean, I was gonna ask if there's any teams you guys want to avoid, but you pretty much just hit that on the head. You know, you guys aren't scared of anyone. You want to play everyone. Yeah, I mean, Alex, that does it for me in terms of questions. Pass it over to you for your special final question.
Of course. So, 2 teams make it to finals. What are the 2 teams, and who takes the victory?
and can this include us?
Yeah.
Of course.
All right, so I'm gonna give it to Akuma and TFC, and I'm gonna give it a close 3-1 Akuma.
Awesome.
Heard. I like the confidence. Well, before
And
we
if it wasn't us, I'd probably put it between TFT and Recon 5, and I'd give it to TFT 3-0.
all right.
Awesome confidence for your buddies as well. I like it.
Yeah, definitely. Before we let you go, is there any shout outs you guys want to give or yeah.
I just want to give a shout out to my team for being my first competitive team and just putting me on a really good team that we have, and we've been doing really well, so I'm happy about that. So that's from a shout out everybody on my team.
I got you.
Awesome.
Well, thank
Well,
you so
it was
much,
a
man.
pleasure to have you, man, and good luck in your next week of games.
Thanks for having me too. It was nice being on here.
I'm glad to have you, man. Yeah, I mean, hopefully we get to interview you again later down the road in playoffs. It was an absolute pleasure, and we wish you, as Alex said, we wish you the best of luck in this next week's worth of games, and we wish you the best of luck in playoffs. And regardless of what happens, we look forward to having you guys next split as well.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
No, thank you. Take care, man. Now, up next, we have the most controversial man in the PRL. I'm, of course, talking about Tron. Tron is obviously representing Go Next Gaming, who has received a lot of hatred, not hatred, a lot of banter, rather, throughout the past couple of podcast episodes. Tron, how do you feel about all that?
I mean, it is what it is. We know people are afraid of us. We won the split last split. So, I mean, people are going to shoot for us, that's for sure.
Fair enough, fair enough. No, but in all seriousness, you guys have been extremely competitive in your division, almost taking down Akuma Blades, who sits dead even with you in terms of losses. So currently you guys are hoping for an upset this week so that you guys take home that first seed. But overall, you know, it's been a very good split, I would say, for you guys. You guys have been extremely competitive in your division. How have you felt about the division as a whole compared to the division you guys played in last year?
The division is basically the same as what we did last year. I mean, last year we had Ferocity. And Ferocity, and back then when we were Fog / Polar Ace / whatever else, right? So, last year we went 1-1 against them in regular split. And then, obviously, we're 0-2 versus Akuma. But it's the same idea. We had 2 top teams in the division. I think we were in the best division last split, and I think we're in the best division this split. If you look across the board, there's not really anyone that really is top 2, like strong top 2, because I think other divisions have weaker teams in general.
Gotcha.
And I'm not saying we don't have weaker teams, but I feel like everyone's on more of a level playing field. I mean, we have like 3 teams shooting for 3rd right now, maybe 2. So, I mean, I think everyone as a whole in our division's a lot better than other people.
Well, so
Fair
what's your thoughts on like the Soul division? Because they have 2 teams pretty much fighting neck and neck for first place, and then 4 teams tied for 3rd, basically.
Well, I thought Soul. Oh, Soul that close?
Yeah, Soul's like extremely close.
The only difference between like say your division versus Soul division is Soul division it's literally like it's 6-6, 6-6, 6-6, 6, and then 5 and 7.
And then 5 and 7.
Yeah, and then
that's
your
between
guys
4.
is like 8 and 6, and then it's 8 and
something, yeah. I have it right here.
8 and 5 and 7 and 6 and 7 and 6.
Gotcha.
7 and 5, 7 and 5.
So that's what I meant. Yeah, because they have 12 instead of 13.
8 and 4, 7 5, 7 5.
Gotcha. That's a lot closer than I thought.
Oh, it's crazy.
I guess I need to start peeking at them a little more. I know I keep in touch with the Zephyrs mid a little bit here and there. Him and I get along well, but their team's too afraid to scrim us, so just go next.
Well, my question is like those are represented as like really strong teams, and you kind of said that you don't really see other divisions as like that strong of teams. So what are your thoughts on like Recon 5 and Zephyr?
So like we respect Recon 5 a lot. This is so this is their Crimson Red team, I believe, and their Crimson team.
Scarlet.
Okay, Scarlet. Okay, and that is technically their like lowest Recon 5 team, but they're still in the top of their division. And last split, it was their blue team. I believe that's number 2 for all their squads, and that showed. I mean, we won 3-2 against them in the semifinals.
Gotcha.
So, just from that perspective, that's why we kind of think that other divisions are weaker, because we know that's the weaker Recon 5.
Gotcha.
And like that's not like no BM to them. Like, obviously they're still winning.
That's just their org structure. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, unless maybe they overtook some spots in their org, we know they're the weakest in general. But Recon 5 is a great org, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And then Zephyr, I don't know if they're a new org or if I just haven't seen them in other leagues before this. But I think they're really strong too. And I think TFT's strong. And Fridays is it Cinders?
SPK Embers.
Oh, SPK Embers. I think they're strong too. So I think the top of their divisions are strong, but I don't know how they'll do in best of 5. I know TFT will do really well in best of 5. But
TFT's getting a lot of love this episode, man.
Well, you can't ban Fierce Doctor, so don't even try.
Well, you can't ban anyone on our team either. I mean, our team does everything.
We've heard that a lot, actually, yeah.
So, I mean, I think finals is either going to be Akuma versus us or TFT versus us.
Well, there goes that.
So, I mean, so what's your... you just ruined Alex's super secret last question that he asked everyone.
Guys, that's all I'm done for the day.
So what's I'm trying to think how to put it. What's your take on Akuma Blades? Because I've seen there's been a lot of banter back and forth, obviously, all in good fun, 100%. But we
really don't know behind the scenes.
Yeah, I mean, but for the most part, I take it as very much so just back and forth, fun-loving banter, and you guys almost took them down this last time, but they managed to hold on, and they noted that they respect you guys, but they politely disagree and think that they're far and away the better team. Which kind of your thoughts on Akuma Blades? Because you were in a very similar situation last season with Ferocity Esports. So what's it like this time around with it being Akuma Blades instead of Ferocity?
Well, obviously we respect them, right? So, I mean, they beat us in 2 games. We can't change that, right? The first game, I'm not going to lie, we got caught off guard. We knew, I forget who I was talking to, but we said they were going to be our hardest competition. We said that straight up. And after we won that split, we had a lot of people doing stuff with school. So we didn't practice for 2 weeks. So, like, the first game we lost, we deserved 100%. No practice, no really research, whatever. The second game, honestly, I think all the stars aligned for him at the very last fight. And I'm not saying, like, we still would have won or still would have lost or whatever. I don't know the outcome. But we had triple inhib down. We had double supers pushing mid, top, bot, right? They won a technically 4v5, but someone got blown up right away, so it was a 3v5. And they were able to ace us, have 2 TPs up, have somehow their mid wave not being all the way pushed back, having Baron, and being able to push the end. I mean, that's like a perfect world situation. Well, and like props to them too. But
to be fair, when I watched that game, my biggest thing that kind of lost you guys that game, and I think was detrimental, was the picks onto your side laner, your top laner.
The Aurelia.
And when the Xayah was finally able to, the Kai'Sa was able to get online with the gold. She got like 900 gold bounty.
Like 2 back-to-back.
And 2 back-to-back times. So with that, I felt like that's when the team fights started to turn for you guys. And I feel like that kind of was what set the game.
Yep, and I agree with you. I agree with you on that too. I'm just saying, like,
I understand though. It was
at
like
the very end, like gold was even, right?
It was like the stars aligned.
Exactly. And at the end of the day, like when you're 40 minutes in or 38, whatever it was, and then all the gold's even, it's basically just who's better, right?
Yeah,
and we were up 3-5, and then we got aced because a lot of stuff went on. I mean, I'm not saying that they misplayed, we misplayed, whatever. Like they still won, but
I definitely think
crazy
they misplayed.
Ending, right?
They had such a good early game gold lead against you guys, and you guys flopped it on them. So I definitely think it was very back and forth.
I think it was the best game of the season, though.
It was a really good game. I loved it.
So,
all right. Well, looking forward, you guys are currently technically above them in the standings due to that forfeiture win by I think it was Tempest Rampage. I'm not 100% certain. Let me double check. Yeah, Tempest Rampage. I was right. But you do have a game against you as GoNext Gaming rather have a game against Original Esports for your final game of the season. Now, Original Esports has been shouted out multiple times for being on an upswing after they took down Sicko Sands, which gave them any kind of playoff hopes whatsoever. What's your thought process headed into that game against the team that's definitely considered to be on an upswing right now?
I think they're great. We beat them once, right? But we've met in Flex for practice randomly like 4 times, and they destroy us every time. And I'm not saying like we ban random champions. Like I'll ban like Nunu, and someone else will ban like Vladimir, right? Like we just ban champions. We don't really like focus. And then like I'll be playing like LeBlanc, and like our last one I played LeBlanc mid, and they played Lissandra to counter me. I just couldn't do anything. So it's like we were playing a solo queue Flex. So there wasn't research done, but they destroyed us 4 out of 4 games when we meet and play. And, like, it's crazy. I think they're really good. And I think they're about to take third, honestly.
That was about to be my next question. OT Glacial plays against Sicko Sands. An Original Esports, I mean, they either have to hope Akuma Blades goes 1-1 or 0-2, or because if Sicko Sands ends up going 2-0, then Original Esports can't catch them at all.
So does Sicko Sands have to lose both games for them to make it? Is that how that works?
So if they lose one and Original Esports beats you and Glacials, it would be a tie. But if they lose both, then Original Esports only needs to win one of those 2 games to force that tiebreaker.
Well, I hope that Sicko loses both.
Hurt. So you're not a fan of Sicko Sands?
Well, they're not beating us, so.
Hurt. But so if in a perfect world scenario, though, you think Original Esports is the 3rd best team?
I think they are the 3rd best team.
And
that's despite Glacials taking down Akuma Blades twice.
Okay, so going to that. So in one of the podcasts, you guys are saying you guys haven't seen like Amumu, Zen.
That was all that guy, all right?
No, the Amumu was me. The Amumu was me. Xin Zhao was Smacks.
Then we see someone feed on Amumu.
Well, here's the thing. So Akuma played Zen against us, and then later that time when they faced OTA Glacials, they played Amumu.
Yeah.
And then they played other random champions that you guys called out that I forget who.
Kog'Maw, like I called out a bunch of shit.
and they literally, like, I'm not going to say they
Big
inted, but they like kind of trolled because their comp was just ass. And OTA Glacials took advantage. You know, it's like, even though OTA Glacials isn't number 1 or number 2, they're still a Diamond 5, right? They're not bad.
Yeah.
No one's really bad in this league.
I would
Except for
agree
the
with
Plat guys. Like, nutty. But, you know.
that. I don't really know the rankings of the team, so yeah, I mean, for me,
No,
I'm just watching.
I feel bad,
Sure.
man. My rank just got called out as trash. Like,
I mean, I'm just trolling. But
No, I know.
We're
everyone's
analysts.
still-
We're analysts. All
well,
right.
everyone's still a part of a 5 team, and they still practice and they still play together. So you can't count anyone out at any given time. You know, if whoever shows up wins the game.
yep.
And
Of course.
in that, Glacials won the game just kind of out-drafted, but at the same time, Akuma trolled their draft. So it's, you know, it's out there.
I got
So-
you.
What about your thoughts on Sicko Saiyans? Because for a while they were once undefeated, but then we were like, they have to play the top 2 teams. How's that going to go for them? And then they kind of didn't show up to game day, and we were kind of confused on where they kind of sit.
They're
But then they
trash.
were smashing
They're
like
trash.
all the low teams. So like, I just wondered. what your
Wow.
thoughts were.
They're actually trash. Like, if you look at their whole gameplay, their macro is really not that good. They play early game champs to try and get ahead, and then even when they get ahead, they throw it away. Like, in our game, Rulebook got up on Irelia, and then just inted it away, and then was just last hitting to get some kills to make his KDA look better. Like, he's not a good player. He's a support main, a Yumi main, and he's playing top, and he gets trashed on. He's lucky B-Way wasn't there. We had 2 subs that game, and we still beat them. It wasn't pretty, but we still beat them.
Alex is,
I go
Alex
on
is
and
loving
on,
it.
man.
Alex is
I
loving
like
it. I heard. All right. Well, I
right.
mean,
You bring the most controversial team in here, and this is what you get.
I mean, we had a sub top and a sub 80 carry, and our top and 80 carry are really good players on our main roster, right? And Gank Bot Police went 3-10. And our 80 carry had 100 CS on him at the end of the game.
jeez.
What? Like, hello? You
Obviously,
gonna try and play the game?
obviously, facts are hard to fight.
I
So,
mean,
we'll give you that.
Engineer, by the way, logic only, by the way. You know, it's the numbers are there.
Blast Haventron, I swear.
So let's okay. Let's
Hey,
shift
you know what I want to do? I
focus.
want to get him and Emma in a room, and I just want to watch them go at it, bro.
Oh,
You
boy.
you two are the most like controversial people in the league, like hands down. Like Emma was spewing so much yesterday, and now you're like trying to like one up her. I swear to God,
Well,
like
at
it's-
least I back it up with fact.
Emma
you said Emma
did too. Like,
I mean, at least I win games, though. I don't know.
Oh my.
here's the thing: Emma was actually showing you guys a lot of respect, so I find it funny
I
that you guys are
mean,
bashing on her.
No, I like them. I like them.
No,
They,
it's all,
so,
it's all,
they,
it's
they
all,
keep it going.
it's all fun.
Yeah. It's all
Now
fun.
let's shift focus to like your thoughts on the top tier teams, because I know you've talked like Team Chitaco you have a high praise for.
Mhm.
We made a list, and Jacob, do you want to go over that list
Yeah, I was just taking a sip
for
of my drink.
top 6?
Yeah, so we actually had Team Fish Taco as number 5 on that list, with SPK Embers as number 6. And that was based on solely on the fact that we think those are the lesser strength in terms of divisions. And then we had, it was
Go Next Gaming.
Go Next Gaming was 4th, Zephyr was 3rd, Recon was second, and Akuma Blades was 1st.
What are your
So-
thoughts? I mean, like obviously.
No, be honest.
Yeah, no. I'm gonna be completely 100% real with this. How do you
Don't troll us,
rank?
Ron.
No.
I'm just kidding.
How do you? I can see why you put Recon 5 ahead of us, but how do you put Zephyr ahead of us?
So the reason we put Zephyr ahead of you guys is we feel that Zephyr is a team. I actually had them. So I had them lower. Alex and Smacks
had it higher.
had them higher. I rated them lower because
Sorry,
no, it's I remember everyone's thoughts from it. So I had you guys higher because I said I think that Zephyr Esports is going to start struggling when they get pushed by these faster-paced teams because Zephyr Esports is a much more controlled team.
Exactly. That's what I
However, they felt like Recon 5, you even said it, you understand how Recon 5 could be put ahead of you guys, and they're able to temper Recon 5 off and still play that same controlled style, which was why they think that they'd be able to do it against you guys as well.
And at the time as well, when we were watching, like, I know you had a very big struggle against a few teams that it looked really shaky too. And when we were putting together that list, that was also incorporated in that. So obviously there's a lot of things that went into it.
Sure. I mean, I respect that. I think the big thing is you haven't seen us play best of 5.
Oh, it's also, well, again, it's all speculation. We haven't seen you guys play other divisions. So there's so much that could happen that we get wrong.
Well, if you saw us last year, we actually went 0-2 versus Recon 5 in the semifinals, and we reverse swept them. That's because they can't ban us out, and we realized what was working for them, and we banned that out. And then at that time, Recon 5 had a D1 guy, promos for Masters, and a Masters jungler, and we still, and at the time we were all D4, D3, and we still beat them. So
and again, this list was also just really early too, because until we get to playoffs, it's hard to even make a list like that.
Sure, but I think our biggest strength is the best of 5 scenario, best of 3 scenario. Right. Just because we can play everything.
Well, right? Let's actually touch on that then, because we're headed into a best of 5 for playoffs, but there's a twist this time around. Instead of it just being, hey, we're transitioning from best of 1s to best of 5s, you're also throwing in easily probably the most controversial thing about preseason, which is just how important draft phase is going to be. I've iterated it every time I've said it. I think draft is now I think draft goes from being 35% of the win to 60% of the win when we come to preseason.
I don't think draft matters.
You don't think draft will matter as much in preseason, especially around that third Drake?
All right, I got a question for you then.
Shoot.
Real quick.
All right, we're going to do it really now.
I mean, this has to be, right?
All right, go for it.
Right? All right, one second. Let me pull it up real quick. So Seawolf was kind of talking, and he says, if draft is so important, can you name a single draft in the league where you replace the 5 players on the losing team with any major region pro team? Do you think that pro team would lose?
Okay, so let me make sure I understand the basis of the question. If I were to take a losing draft for a team, so let's for example say I took
Akuma versus us last game.
Oh, well, I was actually going to say, so we'll say, because I mean you even pointed it out, Akuma Blades versus OTA Glacials, that draft was horrendous. So let's use that one as an example. You put a pro team in Akuma Blades shoes with that draft against a team like OTA Glacials, who we even said has D2 plus players on their team. Do the pro players win?
Yep. Yes, they do.
So
and there's a reason.
So I think OTA Glacial still wins. And the reason I say that is I think that I stand by my point that I think draft is easily one of the most important aspects of League of Legends, hands down. I think we've seen it multiple times throughout the history of Worlds, even through LCS, through LEC, through LPL, LCK. Drafts are usually the catalyst for a team's success, especially in a situation where you have 3 losing lanes and stuff of that nature. So I stand by my point. Yes, I do think draft actually is that important.
Okay, so you say that, but here's my question then with that, kind of building on top of that.
Sure.
If I had a football team that was all 200 pounds, strong, huge all-star team, travel team, right? Or a basketball team was a travel team. And then I had a team that played together for 10 years, and they weren't the biggest kids. But their team play and their communication is 10 times better than the other team. Who wins?
I picked the big guys because they're just going to sit on them.
No, I think
skill and communication overpowers a draft.
I think it's hard to take League of Legends and try and talk about sports.
So,
I'm just analogy.
No. I got you. Hard. I understand what you're getting at. You think communication and you think the overall skill level matters more than the preparation phase. But this is where I'm going to draw my line and disagree. Would you say, hands down, that so I'm trying to think of how to phrase it. So the Falcons, the Falcons versus the Patriots in the Super Bowl. Everyone praised that, yes, Tom Brady's the best player on that field, but overall the skill level of the Atlanta Falcons was much higher than the Patriots. But the Patriots won because of their preparation that they are so well known for. And this is coming from someone who hates the Patriots, but I can respect Bill Belichick and the Patriots for the level of preparation they do. It goes, I mean, use Peyton Manning as an example. The dude literally would sit in the room, would go to the building 4 hours before practice was even starting and just review game film. That's how much preparation matters. And that's my thought process on why the draft phase matters so much, because it is just that preparation phase. And I think I hail any team that can have that level of preparation and execute on that level of preparation. That's why I stand by what I said. I think preparation and draft phase matters a million times more than skill level.
All right, let me flip the switch on this. No, a pro team will destroy you with a bad draft. And there's reasons. Pro teams can get every single little tiny advantage you lay on the floor. Every single bit of it. Draft, yes, it is important. But is it important enough versus a team that's structured and will crush you in every single thought and piece of the game?
Okay, so Detonation focused me with that draft versus OTA Glacials. Who wins?
We're not...
He said any pro team.
That's what I'm saying. I don't care what you say. Any pro team versus a team in this league, it's not going to happen. It's a pro team. They literally study the game in such a way that you will be suffocated out of the game. That's why, yes, the draft matters, but at certain levels. So if you're at the same level as that team, that's when draft, and we talked about that. When teams are at the same level of play, that's when draft is 35%. You're taking away from it. Now, am I going to go and say, take a silver team and put them up against a platinum team and say, well, if the silver team has a better draft, they're going to win? No, because they're silver. There's a difference in skill.
So you think it goes... So you're saying in the event that teams are at an equal skill level, then draft matters.
Then draft
really
matters.
Determined.
Yes, I would agree with that.
So to answer your question, that it's not really a defined answer, but it's...
I'm not saying the pro team would never... If you ran it 100 times, the pro team would never win. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying I think that draft matters an immense amount, especially in a league like this where all these teams, as you've even stated, especially the top teams, are so close together. Like if Akuma Blades, for example, drafted that against you guys, you guys win. Like, that's not a question for me, you know?
Yeah.
So it's... I genuinely believe... I stand by my statement. I think that matters so much, and I think especially heading into playoffs, I think it's going to matter even more because there is so much more additional information being given to everyone about, like, the third dragon, for example. And T-Time made a really good point where that third dragon will also help predict the second and first dragon as well. So I think draft is going to matter so much more going into preseason.
Well, bringing that up real quick, people said our second loss to Akuma, the main reason was our draft, and I don't think our draft was bad at all, and none of my team does.
I don't feel that your guys' draft was a huge issue in that game.
But that's what everyone's argument was. Is why
are
we
you
lost.
talking about with the Viger bottom?
Yep.
No. So we didn't like the swap between the Lucian and the Vagar. The draft wasn't the problem.
If you would have swapped the Viger back, I think it could have been a lot better. So, but it wasn't draft really.
Well, I'm glad you guys think that, because everyone else that we talk to argues with us that our draft is what lost us the game.
No, I don't think it was I honestly don't think it was really draft that lost you guys that game. Again, we talked about why you lost that game. It was just a couple of picks that...
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with you.
Don't worry, leave it to the analysts.
It's crazy to me. Some people are just like, everything's on draft. I'm like, it's not like that.
No, and again, that's why we stick it at 35%.
No, yeah, I mean, again, like, I didn't have an issue with your guys' draft that game. The only thing I had an issue with was the swap between the Vagar and the Lucian. But other than that, I thought the draft was fine. I even said when I was talking to Alex about it when we were watching the game together that I I didn't have an issue with either of these drafts. I thought both drafts were relatively strong. And then when Aurelia started getting that massive lead, I was like, okay, Aurelia is going to take over this game. And then the picks started happening, which got them back into the game. So at no point am I going to go back on that draft and be like, this is why you guys lost this game, was this pick right here. That's not what – I will never say that draft is 100% of the result.
Mm-hmm.
I think that draft is either – I think depending on –
but we've also seen
the difference in the draft. It's either 35 or 60%. I think it's somewhere in that range.
We've seen some of these teams draft literally 3 losing lanes, and then we see the result. So sometimes draft can play a part. So,
and I don't mean to get like emotional about it. Like, no, like that's you understand that I come from a place of passion where I truly believe that draft and
tooth and nail on everything.
No, I
fight that the sun is not yellow. I swear.
I genuinely believe my thought process that draft is important, and I think that while yes, it matters like to a certain extent, the level of skill, but I also think that the level of preparation a team can have can sometimes overthrow that amount of skill, and I'll always stand by that point, that I think that prep can outweigh skill in a multitude of ways.
All right, got last call for this though.
Okay, go ahead.
What if you prep wrongly? Like, what if you practice wrongly?
Sure, and then you'll see that, and the preparation was incorrect.
Can you elaborate? Actually, can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, sure. So let's say I think a team's best player is their jungler, right?
Oh, yeah. You put too much focus on one area.
Exactly. So then, like, what if it's their mid lane and really enabling their jungler?
Yeah, and again.
And then you practice your draft around killing out their jungler.
So, I can actually tackle this very easily. So, if a team is preparing correctly, that's when it matters. I agree with that sentiment. Okay. But if you're preparing and you're saying, well, we're only going to focus on this one player, then you're already preparing poorly.
Well, and let me bring this up to attention too, because that's why flex are so scary. Because if you were to say, we know they love to play this, and if they pick it, we can focus so much on countering this, and then they're like, oh, no, we're playing it top. And everything you plan for gets like flopped on its head. So again, it's very situational.
I just know teams are practicing and like actually scrimming every single day for like 4 or 5 weeks straight, and that's terrible.
We've heard the same thing, and I agree.
Like,
I think
that can only take so much before you just mental boom, and then you start practicing bad because you're so tired.
I agree.
And fatigue. We talked about fatigue in a best of 5 situation. Fatigue's going to play a huge role, and you can happen even practicing too much is something you can get too worn out.
There's a reason that teams like G2, TL, and even some of the Korean and Chinese teams were talking about how, they were taking a break before Worlds, shortly before Worlds, just to mentally like get back and regroup into being able to play at the high level that they were able to. I think player burnout is definitely a thing. And again, I think it's about understanding yourself and understanding your level of ability to prepare at a high level for so long, and being able to prepare around that. I think there's definitely ways that over preparedness can hurt you, especially if you're tunneling in on one specific thing. But yeah, other than that, I stand pretty much by everything I've said.
And on that, if anyone thinks that they have a better idea of what we're talking about and they want to put their thoughts in the comments, maybe we'll read those comments and pick out our favorite ones, and we'll put them on the show.
And we'll argue with you too.
Fist up, but we'll represent you on the show if we think you want to put your thoughts down there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And again, like I said,
we appreciate you bringing that too, Tron, because it's obviously something that I'm sure a lot of teams have been like, I don't know if draft matters that much. So it is very team oriented as well. But maybe we should move on from that, because
I'll good.
We have moved. We have spent a lot of time on draft.
Oh, I'm perfect. You know me, dude. I can talk for days about draft. I love draft.
Draft for days.
Yeah.
Draft for days.
And I sound like an alcoholic.
Well, I mean, honestly, where were we?
No, I mean we were just talking about preseason. Preseason was what we were headed towards. So what are your guys'
How are you guys
thoughts?
doing to prepare?
Yeah, are you guys preparing for
Why do
preseason?
we
or-
have to play preseason on the first round of the playoff?
Sorry.
That's
Oh,
not.
I mean, I know
we're-
it's not-
we
I
don't
know it's not
choose
your
the
fault.
patch
Oh, yeah.
schedule. Like,
No, I 100% agree. It's just like I think the preseason changes right now are such ass. I think it's all RNG based and like so like you can't prep and draft for it, right? So like if there is the ocean drag, right, and you have all the bushes come up, imagine having Rengar
Yeah.
or any assassins that just sit in those bushes. Like, you can't prep that.
well, that's what I was talking about when I said, the fact that the third dragon is going to be in the lobby. It's going to show you what the third Drake is going to be. And
Wait, it is showing it now?
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
it
that's
is,
what I was
yeah.
told from the very beginning. That's what
That's
the
what we
plan
were talking
was.
about draft.
So
Oh,
like
I didn't know it showed it.
Yeah, it shows it. So I think that third dragon like being on the screen is what makes draft become a 60% win rate for winning the
I
game.
don't know about 60.
I don't know about 60,
60 is
but
getting kind of high. But we'll get back. We'll get on
Yeah,
that.
we'll
I
talk
guess
about that
I'm
another day.
fine.
Comments below. Comments below.
But like for example, like you said, like if Mountain's there, all of a sudden Kiana becomes a top tier pick. If it's Ocean, all of a sudden Rengar becomes a top tier pick. If it's Infernal, well then hopefully you didn't pick Rengar. But if it's Cloud, better map rotations are possible because certain corridors will have bonus movement speed. I think there's a lot of things that
And it could counteract split pushing really well.
yeah, and it could be a counter to split pushing. I think that there's that's why I said I think draft ends up becoming 60% because all these different possibilities become open to you when you know specifically what shape the map is going to take at around that 20-minute mark.
Yeah, look,
Sure.
they made it back to draft.
I mean, that's really what it comes down to in this.
Of course.
Right? So
Um,
I think it's better to have more variety in your team content, right? So I think it's
No, that's
you
true.
need
too.
to learn how to flex. You need to learn how to play their champions. I see a lot of I don't want to say one tricks, but like people that only play like 2 or 3 champions, right?
Yeah,
or
there
they
are
play,
some.
like, one
there are some
style.
teams that struggle
Nivea.
from just having certain picks. There are some Jacobs out there that only play Nivea.
Hey, I play Nico too, man.
But even the styles are pretty like one-way streets. Like you see some people that play only early game, or some people that try and play scaling like original
Yeah, and that's
Tempest
very true.
Rampage at the time. It's they play
Good thing
Kale
to keep in
Ride,
mind.
right? So I mean, we've played a
I
lot
know
of
you
different
guys have
stuff,
mixed
man.
it up pretty well.
We haven't even shown like 8 of our team comp. Like we have so much stuff we haven't even brought up.
I look forward
Spicy.
to the spice.
And it's just like we don't want to like because we've already clinched second and like we kind of knew that we were clinching playoffs already just because of how well our team works together
Mhm.
and we saw like our competition. We haven't even needed to bring any like I played Syndra like 5 weeks already, 6 weeks worth of game.
Mhm.
Like I haven't had to play or bring anything else out. Like we haven't even shown majority of our comps that we practice.
Gotcha.
It's like I don't know. Teams are gonna have a hard time in playoffs versus us.
No, understood. I look forward to seeing you guys perform in playoffs. I remember watching you guys last season in playoffs. You guys performed really well, and I look forward to seeing if you guys can run that back. We talked about it earlier in the show about with Akuma Blades, rather, about Price is Right was the returning champ last season, and they didn't perform anywhere near as well as everyone was expecting them to. And it's glad to see a defending champion make it back to playoffs this time around, and we look forward to seeing how you guys do there.
Appreciate that.
Alex, he's already answered your super secret question, so
Well, I'm gonna make him re-answer it. All right.
No,
So
go
just-
for it.
Finals. You ruined it. 2 teams. Who wins?
So again, I haven't seen TFT play any best of 5s because like TFT was in the split last season, right? They just sucked.
yeah, but it's a different team
It's a
representing their
different
org.
team though, right?
Yeah,
But
before
they-
it was just Team Fish Taco, now it's Team Fish Taco Tempest. It's actually a different team.
Are there
within the
any
org.
players that are the same?
No, none of the players are the same that I can remember.
Okay. All right. So I don't know how they play 5s, but like seeing last, because like I think we screamed against Team Fish Tacos once, but we screamed their Masters team
Mhm.
last season, and like we 3-0'd them because like their 5s just wasn't good. Like their best of 5s, best of 3 scenario just wasn't good.
Gotcha.
And then I don't know how Akuma does in 5s, but like I feel like our 5s is pretty pretty good. I mean, we've never lost a best of fives. I can say that for a fact. And like, obviously, we've lost some best of ones, but we're still kind of uncontested for best of five situations, even in scrim.
Gotcha.
So I think Akuma, TFT, Go Next, all in the finals. Like one of us or two of us are going to be in the finals, and then like honestly, like not trying to be like, oh, we're the best, but I think our fives, best of fives team is better than other best of fives.
Okay.
And that's just because of experience.
So you guys win it in the end versus who's? I just need two. So you versus who?
Who do you think is going to make it with you?
I think Akuma's going to beat TFT if it comes down to that. Unless we have to face TFT
We've
early.
already seen some of the best games we're going to see.
Hey man, if I get 5 games of that second game around,
I think I said it in the podcast. I said I could watch 5 games of that again. You know, like.
I mean, I really think our division's the strongest. I think it's going to show in playoffs.
Okay.
We'll see. I look forward to seeing it. Well, I mean, Tron, that's going to do it for us here. You were easily our longest interview, and happy for it. I'm going to give you a chance, obviously, to do any shout-outs before we let you go.
Sure, man. Shout out my team. You know, Go Next. We just created this org this split. I kind of just pulled the plug on it and said, let's do it. Shout out to our sponsors, barhugfitness.com. Code Go Next. And then also gonext.arbon.com for all your protein powders, energy supplements, all vegan. I'm vegan. I'm still alive.
Didn't know
still
that.
going. Yeah, went vegan this year, so
Congratulations.
that's about it. I appreciate everyone rooting for us, even though most of you all hate us. Like, you know, you got to kill the leaders because, you know, when you run everything, people get tired of you.
Yeah, fair enough. I'm not a huge fan of SKT, but it's just because of their dynasty, so I understand that. All right, man.
So
I
that's it
mean,
for me.
no, I mean, I appreciate you coming on the show, taking time out of your day to spend some time with us. You've been a very great guest to have. It's been very much appreciated. We look forward to seeing how you guys perform in playoffs because, as you know, you've already blocked that playoff spot. It's just a matter of whether or not it's going to be first or second seed. So we look forward to seeing how you guys do in playoffs. And, yeah, I mean, we wish you the best of luck. And, as always, you know, it's been a joy having you in the organization, and we look forward to having you guys back next split as well.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
No, thank you. Up next on the docket, we, of course, have Sicko Saiyans being represented by Nightmare. Nightmare, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you guys?
Doing well, doing well.
Wow, another person who asked me how I'm doing. That's two.
That's crazy.
That's two.
All right. So we're gonna go ahead and start addressing things right off the bat. Sicko Saiyans, last week you guys had 2 featured games on streams. I'm gonna go on a limb and say that was not the desired result that you guys had hoped for last week.
Not quite the desired result. So.
Well,
missing a few key things, but
mostly the W's, right?
Yeah, mostly the W's.
So let's kind of talk about it real quick. I know, Alex, you wanted to talk to him about that draft against and the game even against Original Esports. So I'll pass it on over to you.
Yeah, let's just talk about everything. I mean, obviously, they were unfavorable for you guys, but I still want to go over your draft thoughts because I think it's important to get your idea of what you kind of were looking for in both games. We're going to start with Original.
Sure. All right. What did we draft against them?
That is a question for you, my friend.
You guys had Nar, Lee Sin, Anivia, Ezreal, Leona.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Do you need to know what they had?
Sure. What did they have?
They had Kled,
Okay.
Echo, Syndra, Jinx, and Thresh.
Oof, that's a rough matchup for the Anivia.
Yeah, I remember that.
So what kind of happened this game? What happened in draft? And were you happy with the results, or what kind of happened?
I mean, we weren't happy with the results, but I guess to go into a little bit about what we were thinking is we kind of after going 0-1 to both Go Next and Akuma in like week 3 and 4, I think it was. We kind of like sat down and reevaluated what kind of a team we needed to be in order to win these best of one type style games. And we kind of decided that we needed to have something in our kit that would let us get through the early game. And a lot of that was through very volatile top lane matchups and early high pressure game junglers like the Lee Sin. The Anivia pick is something that we play a lot of. It's something that was kind of like not necessarily planned by us, but it was something that was like instantly wanted to, like our mid laner I'm a Babe wanted to pick it like instantly once it was up there. So it wasn't necessarily planned, but I think the thing that got messed up in our draft, if there was something that was messed up with our draft, it was our bot lane, where we had Ezreal Leona. We kind of blinded Leona, which was not exactly what we were going for. We kind of wanted to go for a more safe bot lane that could survive on its own, while we had the Lee Sin and Gnar kind of take over top and top lane, if that makes sense. But yeah, the Leona Ezreal didn't work out that way, and we kind of got really far behind from that, and it kind of just ended up being a giant mess.
No,
which...
I understand that. I mean, so sorry, I'm on Anivia main, so like I'm like really want to dive into your guys' thoughts on the Anivia pick. I'll keep it fairly short. When was Anivia picked in the draft? And was it specifically picked because, or what was it picked after they had locked Syndra, or had you picked it prior to that?
I believe it was picked first from us. I believe we first picked it, at least on our side, because I believe we were red that game.
Gotcha.
So yeah, I think we picked Anivia Leona were our first two picks.
Okay.
And honestly, that's not what we went into the game thinking, that we were going to pick Anivia. It was kind of just something that we got into Champ Select, and our mid laner just really wanted to pick Anivia, and was like really vouching that like, I want to play Anivia no matter what it's into this game. So we kind of just took a leap of faith with him in what he wanted to pick. And honestly, the Anivia pick wasn't, I don't think it was the problem that game, per se, because I don't think we would have picked something that necessarily would have beat the Syndra in lane. Maybe we would have picked something that would have gone more even, but the Anivia is something that we've played a lot with in the past, and it's something that we understand pretty well.
No,
so I don't think that was necessarily the problem.
I completely understand. I mean, again, I'm not like flaming the Anivia pick. I'm not like, how could you pick this this matchup? It was more just trying to understand why the Anivia pick, especially again, like I said, I've played Anivia most of my League of Legends career, so I have fairly good insight into how the Anivia was going to be played when I was watching that game. And I wanted to just better understand why it had been picked in general.
If I could sum it up, it would be a safe comfort pick for our team. Gotcha. It's something we're very comfortable with, and it's something that's safe.
Okay, I got you. Okay, what's if you guys could look back on that game and you know, change up your guys's approach to the draft, what would be some of the changes that you guys think you would make?
If we could go back in time and look at the draft, if draft is the problem, because honestly I don't think the draft really was the problem of that game, but if we could change something about the draft to make it more favorable or easy to pull off, we would probably have changed either the Lee Sin pick and gone just for a more stable game plan instead of trying to get a huge lead in the top lane and have the rest of the lanes play safe and maybe concede some stuff.
Mm.
Or we would have changed either the Leona pick to something that could have helped the Ezreal stay safe more, like maybe an Ezreal top Kench lane, or we would have just gone all in on the bot lane and picked something really, really OP in the bot, like Leona, like some I
Leona
don't really know.
Kaisa or
Yeah,
something
Leona
along those lines.
Kaisa,
Yeah,
something along those lines,
I got you.
and just like play through bot.
Okay. I was just curious if you guys I mean, you touched on the main point that I was looking for, which was, you guys don't feel like draft was the issue. You felt it was much more of an execution error, which I was trying to gauge which you thought it was, if it was draft or execution.
At least me personally, I feel like it was more of an execution error. Some people on the team may disagree with that, but
Gotcha. Okay. So my question for you is, how is the team's mental state after that week? Are you guys in the camp where it's like, okay, it was a rough week, let's bounce back, let's focus on securing that third seed, or are you guys in the camp of everything's on fire, we need to figure out what's going wrong?
Help!
I guess immediately after the O2, we kind of were in that situation where, like, if you see the dog meme where he's in the house, like sitting at the table,
Yeah,
and
everything's
around him's
fine.
on fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were kind of in that situation at the very end of the O2 week, but simply because going into it, we felt like we were in a very good chance to, like, easily handle original and then, like, beat Go Next, because at least in scrims we were doing very well against some very high level teams, like D1. Usually when we scrim D1 master level teams, and I would say on average we usually go like 1-1 with them in scrims. But during the week leading up to the O2 week against Go Next and Original, we were actually doing very well. Like, we were either going 2-1 or 2-0ing these teams in scrims. So yeah, I think it was almost like getting blindsided going O2. It was just so unexpected from us, like, as a team, because we felt so strong going into it that I would say it really did shake our mental a lot. And hopefully we're able to recover it going into these next 2 weeks, or going into this week and hopefully into playoffs. But
So let's kind of backtrack to the first time you guys played Go Next Gaming, and
okay,
you guys didn't look very strong back then, and we looked at you guys as like you were undefeated at the time.
Yep.
So we had a lot of expectations, and it kind of feel like it fell short. What kind of happened for you guys that week? Was it like roster issues, or like what was the mental like, or because it seemed like you guys were so prepared? You were making the bet against Go Next, and then things went boom.
The bet kind of didn't really have anything to do with how prepared we felt going into the game, or how much preparation we put into the game. I think the bet was just a lot more between rulebook and trons and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it was just for fun mostly.
Yeah,
right.
It was for fun and stuff like that. I guess in the first 2 weeks of the game, of PRL split, where we did go 4-0, a lot of the teams that we did face didn't really challenge us in the early game as much as Go Next and Akuma did. And that's kind of where we figured out where our biggest weaknesses was actually getting through the laning phase and getting through, like, the first 15 minutes of the game without being, or digging
At a
ourselves
detriment,
a hole.
yeah.
At detriment, because we kind of, at the start of the split, we kind of branded ourselves, or we saw ourselves as this team that, maybe we would get a little lead in the laning phase, but, like, that wasn't our main thing. Our main thing was once we got into those, like, 20 to 25 minute team fights is really where we shined, because in a lot of the games that we did win in the early part of the split, and even after the Akuma and Go Next games, is we don't have a huge lead coming out of laning phase in like the first 15 minutes of the game, but once we get like second Drake or the Herald, like we would instantly close out those games.
Mhm.
Like that's really where we felt like we had our strongest, was going from like an even early game to just being able to transfer into a quick closeout in like the mid to early late game.
Gotcha.
So while we're on the topic of Gonex and Akuma, what are your thoughts on both the teams? Do you think that one is stronger than the other? Do you think they're very similar in strength? What were your kind of thoughts being in the division with these two strong teams?
I don't think they're similar. I don't think that they're very similar in what they do. I think Go Next is a lot more about, you know, laning phase, and a lot more about I want to outplay you and stuff like that. Not to say
I was referring to similar as in like strength wise.
oh,
Not
in
really
terms
strength,
of
Like relative power,
not-
yeah.
I would say so. I think they're very similar in skill level. I would, if I had to put them against each other 10 times, I would probably give. Oof, that's hard.
you just gave yourself a question that's too difficult. We're supposed to be the ones doing that, man. All right.
You gotta answer it now, though. You threw down the
I
gauntlet
do-
for yourself. Like,
I gave myself the question. I gotta answer it. I would probably say that Akuma would win 6 out of 10 times. It would be 6-4
Wow.
for Akuma.
So it's pretty close.
I do. I think that if I have like 2 seconds to explain why I think this way, it's simply because I think GoNext's biggest strength is their early game, and I think that Akuma can survive the early game enough to where they can get to like their mid and late game, like decision making and stuff like that. And I think Akuma is slightly better than Go Next in that, kind of like how you saw in their matchup.
gotcha.
Well, you've given both teams a lot of respect, and to be expected with their standings.
I mean,
So
we focused a lot on last week, so I mean, I want to kind of transition this into this week. You know, you guys, of course, play against OTA Glacials, one of the teams who is knocking at the door of trying to contend for playoffs. And then you have your matchup against Akuma Blades. A lot of people are writing this off as a 1-1 or an 0-2 week for you guys. Obviously, you guys probably feel very different. You guys probably feel like this is going to be a 2-0. I hope you guys feel like this is going to be a 2-0 week for you guys, rather, because I think confidence is extremely important. But you know, what are your overall thoughts on this? You know, how are you guys approaching this week? Are you guys, you know, planning drafts around it? Or how are you guys approaching it?
I would say we're basically approaching this coming week as playoffs. We are no longer in the regular season. This week is the start of playoffs for us. Because at the moment, we still control our own destiny when it comes to getting into playoffs.
Mhm.
If we do 2-0 this week, then we are guaranteed at least third seed. If we 1-1, then we're at least guaranteed a tiebreaker match with Original, I believe.
Mhm.
And if we go 0-2, then we might get a tiebreaker versus Original or Glacial, or neither.
I mean,
So-
you guys definitely control your own fate in the sense that if you guys go 2-0, you know, nobody can touch you. But
even 1-1 is something.
It's
you-
possible.
1-1 is almost enough to guarantee you playoffs. The only question mark would be who wins Original or Go Next Gaming. But, you know, obviously, you guys are trying to avoid that situation if possible, so you guys would prefer the 2-0.
Yep.
So I think walking into this and saying that, you know, we control our own destiny, it's just about getting the job done, I think, is a very intelligent way to approach this week.
That is our top laner's, one of our top laner's favorite quotes is just to get the job done. And I
Now,
think that's very true. I think that's exactly what we need to do.
now coming into, I know you guys are pretty close to that playoff spot. If you do get into playoffs, you're going to be in a best of 5 scenario. How do you guys feel about best of 5s?
Best of fives are where we shine. In best of fives, we're a completely different team. So, best of ones, if I can say from just our team's perspective, is our weakest point in the game. And once we get to best of fives, we're going to look like a different team. I can guarantee that.
Now, what about preseason coming up? Is that something you guys have been trying to prepare for, or are you guys a little worried about that?
Like the preseason changes
Yeah.
Yes,
for LoL.
because that will be for patch, that will be for the first week of I'm sorry.
All of
Playoffs.
playoffs will be played on preseason.
Yep. Well, as a jungler, I've noticed that they're nerfing jungle XP yet again. So that just means I'm going to be in the lane phase a lot more, soaking up my laner's XP. So
It's the way
I
to
hope
do
they're
it,
ready
man.
for
What a
that.
great
They don't
guy.
need EXP.
Oh
No.
man, you're gonna sit behind the wraiths because I hate that.
I already lose claim to all my jungle camps after about 15 minutes into the game, so I'm gonna steal a couple minions.
Fair enough.
They can deal with that. Personally, I feel like the changes will be they'll be a lot of fun. I kind of like what Riot is doing with the drakes. I think it's really cool how they'll impact the terrain and how, especially the Cloud Drake, how they'll make rotations be and how that'll work out. I think at least in top lane, the little alcove that they have going on in top lane, I think will be really fun for sneaking up there and getting ganks. I wonder if it'll be worth it, or if they'll have to, if like the top laner and bot laners will actually have to put a ward in there consistently for jungle ganks. Because if that happens, then that
That
really
opens up a
flips
different
how,
path.
yeah, that really flips how vision is done, at least in the first 15 minutes of the game, with how limited wards are at that point in the game.
Mhm.
And if you have to use one of your trinket wards or even your vision ward to put in the alcove, that really makes ganks a lot more likely to happen. I think that's kind of where the game is going, where it's a very gank heavy meta right now.
So a lot of people, as a jungler, a lot of people have pointed to the change in EXP rate as a way for some of these much more slower, more farm-oriented tank junglers, such as the Zac, the Amumu, Sejuani even, as a way for them to kind of get back into the game. Um, as a jungler, what's your standpoint on that? Do you disagree? Do you think it's going to be more about just, you know, ganking consistently in with like the Lee Sin, or do you think those changes do indeed favor those more slow ganking oriented junglers like the Sej and stuff back
In competitive 5v5 or in solo queue?
competitive 5v5?
In competitive 5v5, I still feel like heavy ganking is where the meta will stay. I don't feel like there's enough changes for heavy farming junglers to be relevant, especially with how the current meta is and how stuff just seems to be shaping out, particularly in PRL, where it seems to be heavily focused around getting like an early game lead and then transferring that into a quick closeout. So for me personally, I feel like the heavy farming junglers will maybe come back slightly, but nothing major.
Gotcha.
So we have next week. You have some pretty important games, and then if you do make it, playoffs will be right around the corner. Is there anything spicy you guys have been working on behind the scenes that you might not have used yet, and you're kind of saving for this moment?
A couple things. You kind of saw it not too much effect in the game against original with how we utilized the Lee Sin pick. It was we did a lot more stuff with it in scrims, but didn't really do anything with it in our game versus original. But we do have a couple picks that are up our sleeves, so I won't go into
Awesome.
too much detail about that. But we
No, that's
do
okay.
have
We'll be
we do
looking.
have some stuff.
Gotcha. So I've only got like one or two more questions, and I know Alex only has one or two more questions as well. In terms of going, if you guys do secure that playoff spot, are there any teams that you guys hope pick you guys because you'll be second seed, or any second seed teams you guys will hope will pick you guys as the third seed team, or are there any teams that you guys just want to completely avoid?
Are there any teams that we want to completely avoid?
Or pick,
Avoid and
or
play.
play against, yeah.
I wouldn't say there are any teams that we want to completely avoid, per se. If there was one team that I would want to avoid, it would be Team Fish Taco, and that's not because I think that they're the best team in the league, though I do think they are very good. It's just that I'm a big fan of their team, and to have
wanna
to
knock each
them,
other out?
yeah,
Yeah.
to have them knock them out of playoffs so soon.
Oh
be very
man.
saddening for
Woo.
them, simply
I
because
hurt
like
for them. Woo, that burned.
So, what about on the other side of that coin? Is there any teams that you guys absolutely want to play?
If I had to choose a team to play, I believe there is an undefeated team in one
Zephyr?
of the leagues, correct?
There's
Zephyr?
two. There's
Two.
Zephyr
There's two.
and there's SPK Embers.
Oh, yes. If I had to choose one team to play against, it would be Zephyr. And it's because that they're undefeated, and it's because I think that they are they are looking like the strongest team, in my opinion, in possibly the entire league. And I
You
always
wanna get
like
your
playing
hands on
good
all the
teams.
action, huh?
I think that at least for our team, if our goal has always been to win the whole thing, and if we beat them, then I think that it shows that we can win the whole thing. And if we don't beat them, then we go home early. But I think it would. I just really enjoy playing against high level teams like that.
Oh.
So I would want to play against them if I
Gotcha.
had to.
All right. I mean, Alex, that does it for me in terms of questions. I'll pass it over to your final question before we give him a chance to do his shoutouts.
All right. So, my final question will be finals. There will be two teams. What are the two teams, and who wins?
What are the two teams, and who do I think will win? Well, I think we're gonna win.
Well,
if
who
I
you
can
playing?
say, who are we playing?
Mhm.
We are going to be playing Team Fish Taco
Hey.
in the finals.
So you, at the end of the day, you're gonna have to knock your boys out anyway.
Yep,
You didn't want to give it to somebody else. You let
Nope.
them be the ones.
Team Fish Taco for Sicko Saiyans will be the finals, and unfortunately for Team Fish Taco, we're going to have to.
Well, you heard it here.
send a
We look forward to the finals. TFT versus Original Gaming.
No.
That screen, bro.
TFT versus Sicko Saiyans, man.
Wait a minute.
I'm sorry. Yeah, wait. I'm in the wrong interview.
I think I have the wrong script here.
Hold on. Wait, let me rewrite that.
All right.
Sorry, got a little lost.
All right. Well, Nightmare, it's been an absolute pleasure having you. I apologize for my co-caster forgetting your team name. No, but in all
Don't leave. He's gonna hurt me.
But in all seriousness, it's been an absolute pleasure having you.
Thanks for having me.
As normal, I'm gonna give you guys a chance to give. I'm gonna give you a chance to give everyone that you want to a shout out before you go.
I would like to shout out my entire team for sticking with it and hopefully getting to the to playoffs. My top laner rulebook. Teach me how to play Age of Empires 2, please. I'm really struggling with that. And Go Next's support, Kiwi, I believe it is. Is that correct, or is that their AD?
No, Seawolf.
Seawolf is their support.
Yeah.
I played a normal game with him randomly. Somehow we randomly just got together.
Oh,
in a normal
really?
Game. Yeah. So Play more normals with me. That was really fun.
Were you against each other or with each other?
We were with each other, so we went into
Oh.
like a voice call and
That's
stuff.
cool.
It was really fun.
Gotcha. The joys of high elo. You get to play against
Yeah.
people you generally know.
Also, Team Fish Taco don't lose. Yeah, that's it.
That would kind of ruin your finals.
Yeah, that would.
Well, again, thank you so much for being on the show, and we really appreciate you taking time out of your day to come and join us on here. Yeah, we wish you the best of luck this next week, and hopefully you guys can secure that playoff spot. And yeah, I mean, if you guys do, we hope to see you guys perform well in playoffs, and regardless, we hope to see you guys back next split. It's been an absolute pleasure having you here in PRL.
Well, awesome. Thank you guys. Thanks for having me.
No, thank you. Have a great one. Up next on the interview docket, we of course have Heavy from Original Esports. Heavy, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, guys.
The pleasure is all ours. You are the coach for Original Esports. How are you guys feeling after your last week of play?
Last week went pretty good. We faced up against Sequel Saiyans, and we are in a tight race for playoffs with them. So we're happy to win in a pretty convincing fashion. 28 minutes sounds pretty good to me. So we're happy with how things went, and we didn't have to show too much in the game on stream. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Alex, I know you had some questions regarding last week's draft against Sicko Sands. I'll go ahead and pass it on over to you.
Yes. So if you want to go over what your thoughts were for the draft against Sicko Sands, and we'll kind of talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, sure. So what we were most scared of is the Zillion flex, as Babe and King both can play Zillion, and they crushed us with the Zillion pick last time we faced against them. So we banned that right away, and then they have been flexing the Vigar also between Gangbot and Babe. So we just thought that banning flex space was just the best idea, and Cassiopeia is one of the most plays of Babe. So at this point, we're like, we have already banned 2 from Babe. We're just gonna try to drop him to more discomfort, and he kind of surprised us with the Anivia, but we just felt like he was really the only one we had to worry about champion pool-wise. And from that's how we attacked the ban phase. And for the pick phase, we just wanted to have comfort because we knew we were confident enough to just pick comfort and beat them, not necessarily having the best meta champions, but just the champions were the best on.
Gotcha. And it seemed to be successful for you guys. What do you think about the overall game?
I was kind of scared at some point. We got a pretty good early lead, but then Anivia's, we've been struggling against Anivia's for a long time, and the wave flare, starting from the 20-minute mark, it got pretty hard to get mid priority with it. But then my players did a pretty good call to just 5-man dive mid, got 3 kills, and we got I think we got like 3 towers and the animator out of this. So things went pretty well when we chose not to respect Anivia at all and just go ahead and kill her.
Now, we kind of, on Play's podcast at least, we've kind of talked about Original Esports having kind of a okay early game, but you guys seem to have really picked up in momentum. Is that something you guys have been working on as a team?
We've not been working on our early game that much. If you look at our early game before the lane swap, we've consistently got leads, but then it was after that where we lost our leads, and so when we got into the phase with Barons, we could see that Original always had a deficit, and we were like, how is it possible that they always had a deficit, but we had a lead before that? So we really worked more on keeping our leads than creating our leads, and we've done pretty good progress for that thus far.
Gotcha. So coming up this week, you guys have 2, I'm going to say big games, because you verse OTA Glacials, which is tied with you guys in the standings, and GoNext Gaming, which has been a dominant force in this division. How are you guys thinking about those games coming up?
Like you said, they're super important. They will choose who makes playoff and who doesn't. There's 4 super important games this week, and we played two of them. I think Gonex is gonna come in very aggressive because they really want to keep their first seed
Hopes
coming into
alive.
playoffs. Yeah, yeah, and we know we can face them. We've faced them in flex rank a couple of times, and it went super good for us. I mean, I don't know if they were just playing discomfort or they were trying out stuff, but we were able to smash them pretty convincingly, even with me subbing in the jungle instead of George the jungle playing. So I know my players were becoming super confident against GoNext Gaming, and they really shouldn't underestimate us. And then ODA Glacials, I think is the game we are gonna worry a little less about. We're lucky enough to see them play against Sequel Saiyans right before, so we'll be able to pick up maybe a few things from that. And
So you'll be intensely watching for that game.
oh, I will for sure.
So we talked about this division as being like the second hardest division in the league, in PRL. So, in your opinion, what is how do you see that information? Is it true, or do you guys feel like it was kind of easier to play through this division? What are your thoughts?
I think uh, I think we had a pretty good top of the. I think the reason why live division was kind of hard is because the middle of the pack was very dense. Like we have a pretty clear bottom two where ZTG and ZTA and UTG obviously some surrendered, and then Tempest Rampage now surrendered, but they were also in the middle of the pack. So we had 4 teams, us, which is us, Sequel Saiyans, OTA, and Tempest Rampage, really competing for the third seed, and that's what I think makes the group so competitive.
Gotcha. So, my question for you is, I know Alex touched on it briefly. You know, you guys are obviously looking forward to this next week as a super important week, but you guys took the first step to making this even possible last week when you guys took down Sicko Sands, becoming the first non-major team to do so, which is definitely not a small feat. And when I say major team, I mean like Akuma Blades or GoNext Gaming. So, you know, how excited were you guys after that win? You know, were you guys like, oh my god, like this is actually this is possible, we can still make playoffs, or was it very more like, okay guys, we got that win, we need to settle down, like we need to make sure we're taking it one game at a time to make sure we can still have that chance at playoffs?
Yeah, so that excitement really it even came before the game because after week 4 when we were at 3-5, we thought we couldn't make playoffs anymore, and then we kept watching, we kept playing our best, and then George the jungle just went through the schedule and he said, guys, we can still make playoffs. And so when he dropped that into the our Facebook conversation, we're just like, okay, we need to make playoff. So at that moment we're excited, and beating Sequel Science was just like 1/3 of it going forward. So we weren't that excited. We were pretty hyped that we just haven't killed yet our chances, but we know we just have a lot more to do.
Gotcha. So I kind of went on record saying that I think 6 losses is a death streak, or is a death mark rather. How do you guys feel about that? Because I know you guys are essentially at that mark, if I recall correctly.
We're at
you guys are at
5
5
right now.
Yeah. So I mean, how do you feel hearing that, you know, 1 loss and it could be over for you guys, especially when you guys have such a tough opponent like Sicko Sands, or not Sicko Sands, like GoNext Gaming rather, on the docket for this week? Or do you disagree?
Yeah.
You think that you guys are comfortable taking that 6th loss, as long as OTA Glacials is able to take that game off Sicko Sands? Because
Yeah,
that's
so
really
we
what it
can.
comes down to. Is if OTA Glacials take down Sicko Sands, you guys have the authority essentially to lose that game against Go Next, but it's still not favorable.
Yeah. So there's a few scenarios that can happen. Of course, if we go with 2 wins and have 9 and 5, that would be the best. But there's still ways we can go into tiebreakers with Siko and or OTA Glacials at 8 and 6.
Mm.
Uh, there's no if by some um, unlucky circumstances we lose to Go Next, we're just gonna go into OTA and with the fury. I mean, I wouldn't want to be OTA after we lose to Go Next. Honestly, we're just gonna go like, okay, we need to dominate from the get go because
Play your hearts
yeah,
out.
Yeah.
I don't really see OTA being the thing that makes it to playoffs between us, Sicko Sands, and OTA Glacials.
Gotcha. So you think it's just a 2-horse race between you and Sicko Sands then?
Yeah, and OTA Glacials. I mean, I probably shouldn't have said that because they're quite important to us that they went to Sicko Sands, but obviously they're not out because they play both of us and we play kind of harder opponents. But I don't expect them to beat us, and I don't expect them to beat Sicko Sands, and even less likely to beat us, I think.
Well, it is saying something that OTA Glacials have beaten Akuma Blades twice. What are your thoughts on that?
I haven't seen the game, but I mean, wait, I should have went for it. It probably just comes down to some stylistic differences or some misplays. Maybe I haven't seen the stats of those games. I don't know if there were any subs, any uh, draft errors from the part of Akuma Blades, but I really don't think. I mean, OTA that definitely can show up because it, even if it was, let's say, a fluke, you kind of need still enough strength and talent to make that fluke happen. So uh, definitely they can show up on any day and choose to win a game.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
So Alex touched on it again, the other divisions and stuff like that, versus your guys in terms of relative strength. And you said you fairly agree that life is the second hardest, if not the hardest. So my question for you is, going into playoffs, if you guys do manage to lock that third seed, you guys would be essentially at the mercy of any of the second seed teams. Is there a specific second seed team that you guys want to face? Is there a second seed team you guys want to avoid?
Ooh, I I couldn't tell. We really go each week and then the next.
Game by game. Yeah.
Yeah, game by game. So when we're playing Sicko Saiyans, we knew we had more games the next week, but no one on my team besides myself, because I really look into the schedule, they were like, we have more games next week, but we don't really know who we're gonna play. But I'm just we are just very optimistic when the format changes to best of three because
Best of fives.
Best of
Oh,
fives. Yeah.
oh, nice.
Which is
I
even
thought it was
nicer.
best of, okay, that's even better. We have been working really hard to extend our champion pools, and we just want to be able to show that up into a best of series. And right now, and we think it's going to be favorable for us when we get to playoffs. So
Now-
doesn't matter the team.
You guys played against both Akuma and you've played against GoNext Gaming, and they've kind of been the top two contenders in this division. What are your thoughts on who's stronger? Do you think Akuma Blades is a tougher opponent, or do you think GoNext will?
From playing both of them, I kind of feel like they hard to tell, because GoNext is very hard to draft against sometimes. They like to say themselves, oh, we can pick everything and you're not gonna be able to ban us out. It's not entirely true. You can definitely ban their favorite champions, but they can have pocket picks that they've been training on the side lanes. Meanwhile, Akuma, I feel like they're harder to predict sometimes. They go and train those like Garen Yumis that force everyone to respect them and draft super hard. And so it's kind of my way to look at it because draft, to my eyes, chooses a lot of the game. So I think
We're
I
strong
would
proponents
Right,
of
we're
that
right
same
behind you,
idea.
man.
I, I think if I had to choose, I would say that Gonix Gaming is probably better than the Kuma Blaze, but we've seen last week Gonix were making so much mistakes against Sego Science that almost cost them the game. Like they threw a super big lead, so I think none of them is as comfortable in the top two than they look. I think both us, uh, all us, Sego Science and ODA Glacials are closer to them than the standings might lead to think.
Okay,
Gotcha. It's a pretty hot take. I
awesome.
like it.
That's gonna be something to really look into.
um, no, I mean, so you guys, if you make it into playoffs, will of course be playing on preseason, where myself and a few other analysts, Alex is included in this, have all said pretty much the same thing, that draft is going to be even more important moving into preseason based around that third Drake buff that is going to occur to the map every single game now. And especially with it showing what the Drake is going to be beforehand. Do you I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Because draft is becoming even more of an important thing, and with you even stating that you think draft is even probably more of a win condition than the 35% that me and Alex gave. What's your thoughts on that? Are you guys excited for the preseason change and the potential to play on it, or are you guys in the camp where it's like, no, we wish we were just staying on this patch right now?
I mean, in the course of a tournament, I would prefer if it was not happening, but
Fair enough.
yeah, obviously it happens, and you get the opportunity to show your adaptativeness skill or show how much you can, how fast you can learn, or even the teams that have, for example, if a top laner has a 10 champion pool against another one that has 5 champion pool, maybe it comes out that the 5 champions he knows that more of than the other one just turns out to be super strong in a new patch. And so I think that teams with bigger champion pools will come up, and I think that people should already try to adapt and read the patch notes and see like, oh wait, this thing is gonna get killed. Maybe I should stop playing it already in my practice.
So, speaking on the point of adaptability, I know that if you guys, even coming into this week and maybe future for playoffs, is there anything spicy we might see coming new for original? Or obviously you don't have to say in particular, but is there something spicy you guys have been working on the side?
We've been working on a lot of spicy stuff. In my opinion, we've not been the spiciest of teams, but we've been looking
Yeah,
to
you've been hiding it.
experiment.
You've been hiding all of it,
Yeah,
and you're just ready to. It's almost time. You're gonna right through the door.
but I really don't think that best of ones are the best place to be spicy because uh, if you were to pick say if to pick a flex pick like Yasuo Gragas, and then you could not create the assumption in the enemy. Like in the best of three, if you pick Yasuo Gragas and play mid jungle game one, then you created for game two the assumption that it's mid jungle. But then in the best of one, there's no pre-made ideas about champions, so it started to be spicy and get weird champions out, in my opinion.
Yeah,
So if
that's a very good point.
if we make it to playoffs, for sure you're gonna see more spicy stuff from us.
All right, I'll be looking out if you guys do end up making it over this silver lining.
Um,
Good.
yeah, I mean, Alex, I think he's pretty much touched on all the questions I had. Um, I guess the only other question I would have would be, what is your expectations for your team this season? Is anything less than playoffs a disappointment? Is there a certain spot in playoffs you guys want to 100% make it to, or are you guys, what's your guys' goal essentially for this season?
Uh, so if we don't make it to playoffs, uh, of course, it's going to be a huge disappointment. We were really looking into the PRL. It's our first split in here, and we were hoping to make a strong statement coming in. And if we don't make it to playoffs, we can say that it's not really a strong statement. So, and then going into playoffs, I think we really think of ourselves as a better team in best of fives. So if we don't come out strong in the playoffs then, and we, let's say, lose a best of five, 3-0, 3-1, or even 3-2, we're gonna be pretty. We're gonna have to re-challenge our idea of ourselves. So I think we're gonna look to make it pretty far into playoffs.
Gotcha.
Awesome.
All right, Alex. I mean, that does it for me. I know you've got your special last question you like to ask everyone.
All right. So obviously, I know you haven't done the most study on these teams, but finals, 2 teams. What are the 2 teams, and who wins?
In the finals. So, I would have to see. So there's the number 1 seeds in the automatically seeded in the quarters, right? And then
You don't have to really worry about that.
Okay,
I just want you to
okay.
pick 2 teams, and I want you to tell me who wins.
It's gonna be us against Go Next.
All right.
Heard.
Let's go.
All right. I like the confidence. I do hope you guys have some great luck in your next games. And
Well, hold on.
I
You
hope
still
to
gotta
see
say
you
who
in-
wins that matchup between him and Go
Oh,
Next. Yeah.
Well, we kind of assume he picked himself.
Oh,
Fair enough. Well, we'll get a preview of that final then tonight. Not
Yeah, I
tonight,
guess,
but
yeah.
yeah,
Sunday night rather.
exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, we'll see.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show, Heavy. We really appreciate it, and we wish you the best of luck in your final week, as well as going into playoffs if you guys do end up making it.
Wait, did he have any shout-outs?
Let me get there.
Oh.
Before we let you go, do you have any shout-outs you want to give?
Oh, don't be spicy.
Yeah, I want to give shout outs to last Sunday's casters who had to do an interview with my jungler and support, and they weren't really talkative. So shout out to you guys for handling it so well, and shout out to OTA Glacials, who's about to beat up Seco Saiyans this week for us.
I love it.
All right, heard. Well, yeah, I mean, again, thank you so much for coming on the show. We really do appreciate it. And we wish you the absolute best this week and into playoffs. And if you guys don't make it into playoffs, we hope to see you guys back next split for another run back. We've enjoyed having you here in the organization.
Good, thanks for having me, and we're gonna see if we can talk again on the podcast if we make playoffs.
Of course.
All right, man. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
And to wrap things up for today, we of course have our last interview of the day with OTA Glacial's Life Orb Slowbro. How are you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you guys?
Doing well.
Good. Thank you.
Alex, I know you had some questions about some of their games throughout the season. I'll go ahead and pass it over to you.
How's it? Yeah, honestly, the first thing I kind of want to cover is how's it feel to beat one of the top teams like twice and just have their number?
It feels pretty good, honestly. I think that's a big reason why we're kind of still in contention for playoffs. To be completely honest, I feel like there's a stylistic mismatch between the 2 teams in terms of us versus Akuma. I think we have the style that they struggle against. Obviously their style works for them, but for some reason either we overperform or they struggle against our style. So I'm just gonna leave it there.
How do you feel about the other teams in your draft? Kind of like Go Next Gaming. Do you feel like you guys could take them easily as well, or you just haven't been showing up on those days?
So the first time we played them, I think they were the first game or second game we played in the entire league. We kind of got smacked. It was kind of a wake-up call, reality check for us. Coming into a week, so we had been smashing all of our scrims, and we're like, okay, we got this easy. And then that week was a big wake-up call to us. I think the first game was actually incredibly close. It didn't look close, but it was incredibly close because it was just like small misplays here and there that like could have swung the game either way. And then we just kind of made more misplays, or they outplayed kind of thing. So I give them mad props for that. I think Go Next is honestly a pretty strong team. You know, the second time we played them, we tried something and it didn't work, and yeah, it was. I think they're going to be tough for us. I think Original Esports. I think we've played them already once and we did okay. I think they're on the rise right now with how they took down Sicko Saiyans. Um,
Yeah.
so I
So
think
so going into this week's games, you guys versus Sicko Sands and you versus Original Esports, and they're very important for you guys making it into playoffs. How do you feel about these two games you play?
going into the games, I feel pretty confident. I mean, we've been working really hard as a team. Um, we've got some juicy strats potentially
Oh,
to bring
nice.
out. Um, I mean, obviously those are best of ones, so whether or not we get to those juicy strats, we'll see how draft
Well,
goes.
now that we're talking about it, when we do make it to playoffs, it will be best of five, and if you do, you'd have to compete in a best of five. And you guys feel like that's stronger for you, or do you feel like it's a detriment?
I feel like that's honestly stronger for us. Um, we do a lot of like in scrims and whatnot. We'll try something game one, and then we'll make adaptations for it in the rest of the draft. Um, going into future games. I don't think I think we're excited to go into the best of fives if we make it that far. I don't think anybody on our team thinks we're gonna struggle with it.
Gotcha.
Usually best of fives is where champ pools tend to be exploited more than anything, and I think our champ pools are pretty solid, and we have some interesting comps that we can run that teams may not be expecting.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, there's one game that I think everybody in the Life Division, and even fans of the Life Division that just enjoy spectating it on match days, has circled on their calendar, and I think without question it's got to be the OT Glacials versus Sicko Saiyans game, just because that one determines, your playoff hopes, and it also determines Original Esports playoffs hope, and quite frankly, it determines Sicko Saiyans playoffs hopes as well. Um, so a lot is really riding on that game. Um, how confident are you guys going into that matchup? Is this one that you guys have been laser focused prepared on, or what's kind of been the team's mental about this game?
I mean, to be honest, we've been pretty laser focused on all of our matchups since we realized we had to win every single game to make playoffs. Um, that was kind of the switch where we're like, okay, it's all or nothing now, so we might as well, put forth 110%.
Gotcha.
In terms of that matchup specifically, I think it'll be a battle. I think both teams realize what's on the line in terms of playoffs and everything, and I think teams are going to play accordingly. I mean, there's always the chance that it's a smash one way or another, but I kind of think it'll be relatively even.
Gotcha. Are there? I'm trying to think how to phrase it. So in the event that you guys do take down Sicko Saiyans, you of course then have your matchup hour and a half, 2 hours later, however you want to look at it. Later against Original Esports, which then becomes the premier matchup. So you guys basically have an opportunity to have two of the matches that everyone's really focused on this week because they determine, like I said, pretty much everything. Original Esports is definitely a team that is on the upswing after taking down Sicko Saiyans last week. Meanwhile, you guys essentially had an off week due to the forfeits. Do those forfeits bother you guys because you guys would have preferred to get the extra practice in heading into this final week, or were you guys just like, this just gives us extra time to prepare, so we're fine with it?
Honestly, the forfeits only bother us as much as the fact that there are teams in the league that just don't feel like playing out the rest of the season. To me, and I think to our team, that bothers us more than anything. In terms of, once we found out our games were forfeits, we obviously, used that time wisely and booked, scrims and whatnot. So I don't think the practice went wasted. I think it was, good for us either way.
Gotcha.
So I think, going into the future in terms of next week, I think last week's forfeits aren't going to affect that in the slightest.
Gotcha. So a lot of teams have actually been talking about how they've been scrimming other teams in the league. Have you guys been doing the same? Are you able to give us any insight on who you've been scrimming, or is there have you been scrimming outside of the league? What's kind of been your guys' scrims like?
We've scrimmed various. We've scrimmed some teams from other leagues. I think earlier in the season, probably about halfway through, we scrimmed Fish Taco, and that scrim went exceedingly well. We were kind of surprised, but obviously that's scrims, so we'll see how everything goes to it. And then obviously we've, since we are sister teams, we've scrimmed Cinder multiple times.
Gotcha.
So,
I actually
yeah.
want to touch on that, given that you guys are one of the few organizations here. I think there's 3 in total that have sister teams in the league. How have you guys kind of felt about Cinder's lack of success? I know currently they're in the rebuilding phase. As of about 2 weeks ago, I think that's when that started. But even before they started the rebuilding phase, they were struggling to find success. Does that worry you guys when it comes to facing any teams from that division, or do you guys feel like you were the stronger sister team, and so you guys feel prepared for that?
Honestly, their lack of success is worrying just from an org perspective. Obviously, you want all of your sister and brother teams to perform well on the day. But honestly, after scrimming them, as much as we've scrimmed Cinder, it kind of just gives us an evaluation of like how their division is. Having scrimmed them and Fish Taco, we kind of know where we stand. So we're looking forward to being able to play other teams in other leagues or other divisions.
Gotcha. Now, when we were ranking the divisions in terms of strength, it was Soul, then Life, shortly thereafter, followed by a giant gap, and then Mind and Body. What's your take on that? Do you disagree? I know previously, before we started recording, you had said that you don't have a lot of experience watching these other divisions, but just based on your scrum results and the limited information you do have available to you.
I would say, I don't know about the other one that's rated above us, but I would say our division is pretty difficult. Just knowing what the top 3 teams bring to the table. I don't think, what is it, Center's division? I don't think they're particularly strong. I think they are one of the weaker divisions. And then the other division that's like up there in difficulty is what, the Saturday one?
Yeah, Soul Division was the one that we had rated above you guys, and then
Zephyr and
Recon 5.
Recon 5 kind of control that.
Yeah, that one to me is kind of tough to say because you have teams at the top and then you have a middling. Everybody's kind of like, there's a big discrepancy between the top teams and the rest of the league.
Mm-hmm.
So while I don't want to take away from what the top teams have accomplished, it's kind of like, was the rest of the league difficult? Were they even pressured, kind of thing.
Gotcha.
Understandable.
So yeah, that's pretty much all I have on that.
Gotcha. So Alex touched on it briefly about the switch to best of fives. Rather, I almost said best of fives. I don't know why. Just words.
Best of 5.
But yeah, you guys are going to be transitioning to these best of 5s. But the other giant question mark is all of playoffs is going to be played on the preseason patch. Is multiple of that. How confident? I don't know what's wrong with my English today. What's your guys' thoughts heading into these preseason patches? Are you guys excited for the changes? Do you guys think it brings like a new dynamic to the game that you guys are really excited, specifically around like the dragon and how that will the third dragon rather, and how it will massively influence the draft phase? Or are you guys just, again, one game at a time? We'll worry about that when we get there.
I mean, we've obviously kept up to date on what they're planning on changing, and we have our thoughts on how the meta is going to shift, and we have planned accordingly. Um, Obviously, what we think is going to be meta and what ends up actually being meta could be completely different things. It's those playoff games are really going to come down to who grasps the meta first, and the strongest kind of thing. It's going to be a very different outlook in terms of champions. I mean, there's going to be some of the same champions, but there's going to be a lot of champions that are like fringe picks now that are probably going to become more and more viable as we get, on those patches. And then obviously there's, Riot's balancing. A lot of times in the preseason they have things that are, inherently broken or way too strong or way too weak.
They make some questionable decisions. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
I do not
agree.
know what we're saying about Riot.
So, I mean, it basically like kind of. We basically just need to see how it shapes up. Is it what's the timing of playoffs versus like when the patch is released?
Playoffs literally starts. I gotta double check it. Playoff starts the day after the preseason patch drops.
Oof.
Ooh, that's rough.
That's a big oof.
I mean, it wasn't our decision. Let's put it like that.
Yeah, no. It's just
we at
unfortunate timing.
PRL are not super thrilled at the prospect of this, but I mean, I honestly, part of me is happier that it's happening like now at the beginning of playoffs instead of like halfway through playoffs or something along those lines. You know what I mean? Like, I definitely think the timing isn't super favorable, but better now than like the day before finals or something along those lines.
Oh, absolutely. I think honestly, for the first week of playoffs, it's going to come down to which team figures out the meta the fastest. Obviously, you have a day, so if something's inherently, strong, that kind of slips underneath the radar and Riot doesn't hotfix it or something like that, like there's always a chance that just like ruins a series. Not necessarily ruins, because but it can take some games, depending on what it is.
Gotcha.
So, I mean, obviously, I think every team would be a little concerned about that unless they're, have a crystal ball. So, I mean, I definitely have faith in my team in terms of, picking up new stuff very quickly. So I'm not too concerned about it, to be honest. I think we'll do all right.
How do you guys feel about some other teams? Like, do you have any other teams in mind that you'd like to play come playoffs in third seed? Obviously, you'd play a second seed team. Is there any second seed teams that you know of that you would be interested in playing?
Off the top of my head, no.
Okay.
I mean, our goal is to win the whole thing, so it doesn't really matter who we play.
Well, with your showings against Akuma, it's definitely possible.
No, absolutely. I'm trying to think out how to word certain questions. I don't know what's wrong with my English right now. It's just like it's escaping me. It's like I'm switching to French slowly for some reason.
05.
Yeah. What's it called? Is there? So if you guys do make playoffs, it'll be off the weight of your guys' own late season surge, which definitely has to be good for you guys in terms of coming into the playoffs with some momentum. Obviously, the playoffs are going to be, well, we already discussed, they're going to be on preseason, so that probably shakes the momentum up a little bit. But are there any teams, if you guys will end up locking the third seed, if you guys do make it to playoffs, are there any teams that are second pooled seeds that you guys want to avoid? Just based off of the things that you've heard about them throughout the league, such as like Recon 5, or you guys are just very much in the camp of it doesn't matter who we come across, we're going to have to beat them eventually anyways?
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely part of the camp of we're going to have to eventually beat them anyways.
Good mentality.
I think people are underrating Go Next a little bit. In terms of how they play. I think as a second seed, they've really only struggled against Akuma, to be honest. and I think that just comes down to a stylistic thing as well. So I'm interested to see how Go Next does, coming out of our division, and obviously I'm interested to see how Akuma does as well. In terms of the other leagues, we're pretty much going to cross that bridge when we get there.
Has there been anything you guys have really been working on personally as a team to better yourselves come playoffs and come this next week?
We honestly hang out a lot together in terms of playing games, and whether or not we're running it down in normals or tryharding in ranked flex or solo queue.
So he's always trying to find time to put in the practice.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, the normal games are usually less than lucrative in terms of time spent, but it's a lot of fun.
Well, it's good to find fun in what you do. It's always important.
No, I hate hearing when teams say something along the lines of, "Oh, we don't enjoy the game. We just play it because we feel like we have to." I'd rather much hear that somebody's enjoying the game than not, essentially. What's you guys? So when we were doing a rating, again, I'm struggling. I don't know why. I've done this 100 times now, and I'm still struggling.
101 gets rough.
When we were ranking the teams in terms of just sheer power, 2 of the teams from your division were rated in our top 4. How does that feel, knowing that you are coming from a division that has been rated very highly by many?
Honestly, it feels pretty good because we've already played both of those teams, so we know where we stack up and what we have to do to beat those teams.
Gotcha.
If other leagues are, worried about said teams, or just everybody thinks those teams are good, I mean, we're coming for the top. Like, it's.
So you're thinking you might just like sneak it on one of these teams who think you're a little more underrated?
Oh, I know we're underrated. Like, if I had to look at power rankings, our power rankings are pretty scuffed, to be honest. We've dropped some unfortunate games early season, between drafting and misplaying stuff.
Are you guys have a coach at all?
We do.
You do? Okay, cool.
We do. We'll actually be subbing in for the final game.
Oh, I thought it was you.
Or
I thought
next
you
week.
were the coach.
Oh God, no.
No, he's a player.
So that was my bad. When I was reached out to by Atenio, I thought he had said coach. He had said captain, though. I actually just messed up the stream overlay. But yeah, no.
That's twice.
I know. I keep doing it. But yeah, no. I thought he had said coach. He did say captain, so that's my bad.
No, I just know of him as a player, so.
Gotcha. So because you were the last interview we are going to do, I do have one question for you that I haven't asked any other teams.
Bias.
We are releasing a top 20 players list next week. Do you guys think that you will have representation on that list? And 2, are there any teams that you think from your division that are going to be overrepresented that don't deserve it?
That's a mean question.
That's not a mean question.
That is a very interesting question. I think we'll have at least 2 players on that list, if not 3. I don't know. Is it based on like you do top 5 from every role, or?
No. So what it's going to be is
it's actually top 20 for the whole.
Yeah, top 20 for the whole league.
Okay, so it could like theoretically be 20 mid laners.
Yeah.
Technically, yeah.
Well,
Okay.
I mean, it could only be 12 because there's only 12 teams going into playoffs. But yes.
Oh yeah.
No, because we're doing teams that didn't even make the
Oh yeah, you're right. Okay. So theoretically, it could be 20 mid laners if we deem mid lane to just have
not
the
a
20
bad
best
idea.
players.
I might have to roll that one out. Welcome to mid lane meta.
I mean, maybe I'm biased, but I think we'll definitely have representation on that list. I think.
Hey, you don't
People
beat
will see
Akuma and then not have some kind of representation. You never know.
True. Obviously, that's not up to us. I think we have 3 players that, in my opinion, deserve to be on that list. And but obviously I haven't seen as many of the games as from the other divisions. I think for at least from our division, I think I'm interested to see where Go Next players, like who makes it on the list,
Mhm.
any make it on the list, as well as Akuma Blades.
Do you think either one of them will end up with too much representation or more representation than they deserve, or do you think both of them will receive the adequate representation just based off the fact that they both made it into our top 4 list?
I think they'll receive adequate representation. I think if like all 5 players from both teams made it in, I feel like that would be unlikely to begin with.
Take up half the list, yeah.
I mean, it's yeah, you're not wrong.
But I think I'm honestly just more interested to see where my team goes because I think we have a solid roster of players that should be in the top 20.
Gotcha. All right. I mean, Alex, I'll pass it off to you to your super special last question, and then we'll give him a chance for shout-outs.
Unfortunately, I've asked every team this, not just you. But just talking finals, 2 teams. What are the teams and who wins? And it can be yourself. We had that plenty of time.
I mean,
them versus Akuma Blades, and they win.
Oh man, Akuma Blades! That game, they'll be shaking.
That would be a pretty high matchup.
No, really. I want to know what your thoughts are. Even though I know you haven't seen much, but just based on what you have seen, what are your thoughts? And what's your team?
I think Akuma Blades will probably make the finals. Either them or Go Next.
And who are they facing?
Who are they facing? Hopefully us. Hopefully us.
All right, so that is the finals, huh? And who wins?
Who wins?
If we're going off of head-to-heads,
I mean,
if we're going off head-to-heads, it's pretty Go Next favored and pretty Glacial's favored, depending on who they're facing.
I mean, it's gonna come down to performance on the day. Honestly,
No, absolutely.
And patch preparation that people aren't really thinking about yet.
Yeah, I mean that's gonna go big into playoffs. I think whoever grasps the meta the strongest is gonna decide the fate of the playoffs.
Gotcha.
Entirely.
Well, I do appreciate you finding the time to have an interview with us. We got a lot of insightful information about your team, and hopefully you guys are going to be able to make it to playoffs and show off some of your snazzy new picks.
All right, sweet.
Well, before we let you go, obviously, do you have any shout-outs you want to give?
Yeah, I want to give a shout-out to OTA as an org. They've been very friendly to us, and we're very grateful of that. And a shout out to all of my teammates for trying to carry my boosted ass.
Heard on that. I know the feeling all too well. I have to carry Alex all the time.
This guy talks about playing a Moo all the time.
Wait, I'm so peeved.
See, he knows what's up. All right.
Oh, God. I'm surrounded.
You're surrounded by bandages. All right. Well, yeah. I mean, thank you so much for joining us, Slowbro. We really appreciate it. We wish you the best of luck going into this last week, and hopefully we get to see you in playoffs. And yeah, I mean, regardless of what ends up happening, we hope to see you guys back next split. It's been an absolute pleasure having you guys here in the PRL. Yeah. So I mean, best of luck to you this next week.
All right. Thank you very much.
No, thank you. Have a great one, man.
You too.
Well, that covers it for the Life division. We got a lot of insight, a lot of good conversations. Alex, anything you want to add before we end this one?
Nope, just straight controversial on this episode. I'm sure you guys all want to give your thoughts. Please leave it down in the comments. Also, like and subscribe. It will really support us as well as the PRL in a whole. And thanks for keeping up with the show.
Yeah, absolutely. And remember, if you have any questions regarding tiebreakers or anything at all this weekend, make sure you guys message Alex. His username on the Discord is SlothKing132. I will be unavailable as I will be on my honeymoon. Thank you for all the have funs and congratulations that I've received since I started announcing that. But yeah, thank you so much for watching and like and subscribe.
don't forget, we have Smacks and I doing the podcast, so we're taking over. So don't miss the next episode. It will still be there in the same spot.
Absolutely. All right, well, that's going to do it for us. Have a great one, guys. We'll see you on the